I'm guessing that is supposed to be facts. Well, we talk about a lot of facts here on this and that. What is this about? Today, we have a different topic every day of the week, so you should like and subscribe so that you can find some of the topics that you want to be a part of, and then hit the notification buttons. As it says on the show, it says how a simple rotation strategy can be investing in vain. So today is going to be about investments, stock portfolios, dividend rotation strategies, stock options that you can invest in. Yesterday was about the politics that impact your money because yesterday we were talking about taxation. As we're going to be filing our taxes, uh, starting like what next week, the week after next, we're going to start putting together our money for taxes. Uh, I also talked to you guys about a couple other things that was going to be making some changes, like the lower interest rates that went into effect last week, like Friday. So you'll start seeing different changes in your credit card variable interest rates in like late January, early February, because most of us have a mid-month credit card that we activated, and in between billing statements, we're going to start seeing a fluctuation of interest rates. And we're also going to see a fluctuation of interest rates on not just loans and credit cards, but we're also going to see fluctuations on interest rates for other such like high interest debts, CDs, money market accounts, stuff to that effect. So getting it in before those rates change, if you want to lock it in at the high interest rates for savings and investments, and paying off debt when the interest rates finish plummeting so that you can pay less money for those debts, are things that we think about because it impacts you. And then Wednesday, we're going to be talking about different countries to invest in around the world, and then personal development on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with relationship topics, networking, and everything to that effect. So at the top of the hour, because I discussed that like 7 minutes ago, at the top of the hour, yeah, that's what we cover. So live podcast. So we're going to be here for at least an hour, maybe more. We're going to be talking about money today because the goal is to help you guys become higher value men. This is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective. But ladies, y'all can take this information and learn from it. So hopefully you guys can enjoy the show. And if you can't, at least you can learn something from it. So since January 2026 is staring us right in the face, do you know the exact dates that you need to own your stocks to lock in those first dividend payments of the upcoming year? Not too many people do. Most investors don't, and frankly, they leave the money on the table because they don't. I understand I've given you guys a core satellite portfolio, and you can do a buy and hold and say, you know what, it is what it is. But if you're doing a dividend rotation strategy, you can actually take a little bit more cheese off the table, put a little bit more cheddar on your bread, and have a little bit more to come back with. And in order for you to do that, we've done some homework for you. And this is going to be your ultimate dividend calendar for January and February 2026, built around the key ex dividend dates that you can't afford to miss out of all of them because this isn't every single stock option around the world. These are some of the most undervalued stock options that have the lowest buy-in rates with the highest payout rates that are going to be giving ex-dividend dates be in January or February of 2026. So we're going to be laying this out for the first time for 2026. We're going to be doing it today, and this is going to be a clear, actionable roadmap for the upcoming year, company by company, date by date, so that you can plan your dividend strategy for the new year with confidence. Now, you're going to forget scrambling. Your guide to getting paid is going to start right now today. So I want to welcome you guys to this and that. And we're all about helping you build a reliable and growing stream of income through dividend investing. Now, the problem we're tackling today is going to be very simple. It's frustrating. And when you experience this missed opportunities, you will understand why this ends up being so frustrating. So your bill shows up every month. Why are you not settling for the dividend payments that only arrive once a quarter? Well, more importantly, how can you be sure you aren't missing the single most important deadline for getting paid from every stock or ETF? The ex dividend date. In tonight's show, we're building the ultimate dividend stock calendar to get you paid right as it comes, starting into the 2026 year. And we have projected the ex dividend dates that you need to know for both monthly and quarterly payers in January and February. And this isn't just a list, it's a strategic game plan. And we'll look at the company that can provide consistent monthly cash flows and highly uh, valuable highlighted quarterly gains. These giants, whose deadlines you'll want to circle on your calendar in addition to the ones that you normally go after. Now, before we jump in, let's get this disclaimer out of the way because I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only. So the information here is based on historical data and dividend forecasting. So while these projections are based on very consistent company histories, please remember that dividend dates and amounts can always change, and you should always do your own thorough research before making any investment decisions. So I want you to think of this as the perfect starting point for your own investigations, not the final word. Typically, I'm never wrong about the things that I give you guys. So it's always a good idea for you to try to double check because things change from the time I start the show till the time the stock market opens first thing in the morning at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But our goal is to give you the right information so that you can make smarter, more timely moves for your portfolio. So, what in the world is an ex dividend date for those of you who didn't know? And why is it the most important date for us? Let me break it down for you briefly. Imagine owning the stock is like having a ticket to a concert, and the dividend is the show. The ex dividend date is the day the ticket taker is at the door. So if you buy stock before the ex dividend date, your name is on the list and you get to see the show. You get the dividends. If you buy the stock on or after the ex dividend date, well, that door might have closed for that specific payment. And the person who sold you the stock gets the dividend. And you have to wait for the next one. It's that simple. To get a company's upcoming dividend, you have to own the stock before the market opens on the ex dividend date. You'll also hear about the other dates, the record date and the payment date. Now, the record date is usually a day or two after the ex dividend date, but with some ex dividend dates ending on the weekends, there's a possibility that the record date might happen before the ex dividend date on the last trading day of the week. So you might find some ex dividend dates happening on a Saturday or a Sunday, or on a Monday when Monday is a holiday, and you might find that the record date might be the Friday before that, which means that if you're on the books before the end of business day, the Friday before that, you qualify for the dividends on the ex dividend date. Uh, and that's when the companies are going to officially check those records to see who its shareholders are. Now, honestly, as a buyer, you don't need to stress about this one, not so much so, because if you're buying long before the ex dividend date, you're all set. But the payment date is the fun one because that's when the cash actually lands in your brokerage account. This can be anywhere from a few days to a few weeks after the record date, because sometimes you can get the ex dividend date at the last week of the month, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, you get the payout date. Sometimes you have the record date, then 2 or 3 days later, you have the payout date. So to recap, real quick, we buy before the ex dividend date, the company records our name, and then we get paid on the payment date. But the only date that requires action from you is the ex dividend date. And that's why our entire 2026 calendar is built around that. So let's get into the first month of the year. And we're going to kick off the year and build out our January 2026 dividend calendar. A great income strategy uses a mix of consistency and bigger quarterly payments. That's why we're starting with the foundation, the monthly payers. And the monthly payers are the companies that can help align your income with your bills. Because after that, we can turn to the quarterly type ones with deadlines in January that you won't want to miss. Now, one of the things I'm going to tell you is that when we have quarterlies and monthlies that blend together, you likely have to diversify or split your investment, or um, choose the one that has the largest return based on your investment opportunity. And it's going to take a little bit of math, because you're looking at how many shares you can buy for the quantity of investment that you have, and how much you're getting per dividend, or how many dividends per share you're going to be getting in order to determine, you know, at 5 cents a share, if I can have 1,000 shares versus at 12 or 25 cents a share, I can only have 40 shares, determining which investment is the best one for you. A lot of times, the dollar amount difference in the buy-in versus the payout difference typically puts it a few dollars off from one another. One might be $15 or $75. The other one might be 150 dollars. If you're trading on a $10,000 scale, one might be 800 or $900, and the other one might be another 50 to $100 more, depending on how much you're trading. So you have to pay attention to whether you want to diversify your investment for the month and get both of them or all of them, depending on how many of them there are, or if you want to put all of your money into one basket. Now, average person recommends that unless you're running a highly volatile platform where putting all your money in one basket is the way you're going to take that benefit and then diversify off of the return. That's one way to do it, but experts typically recommend that you have a fully diversified platform, preferably a buy and hold instead of a dividend rotation platform, so that you can bring in a larger quantity of automated dividends where you don't even have to pay attention to your portfolio. You can just make it do what it do off the dividend returns. So let's start about January's monthly payers. This is going to be your income foundation. First up is the bedrock of the monthly income, a company so dedicated to its mission, it's actually trademarked the name the monthly dividend company, which is Realty Income, and it has a ticker of O, literally the letter O. We're gonna get in here real quick. He said, "What's up, brother? How you doing? Good to see you again. It's cold outside. How's the leg going?" I know what aches and pains feel like. That weather's been dropping a lot lately. Working without a cane now. That's good. That is excellent. Once I started working with a cane, I was like, nope, I am not doing that no more. Once a cane came into the mix, I was like, nah, that's all right. I don't even want to do this no more. I retired like the Undertaker. I was like, my undefeated streak has been defeated. I'm done. Now, uh, Realty Income is a real estate investment trust or a REIT, and it's a legend in the dividend world. A REIT is a company that owns or finances income producing real estate, and by law, they have to pay out at least 90% of their taxable income as dividends. And that's why income investors love them. He said, that's 4 weeks since. Well, yeah, you've been doing a good job of bouncing back off of a recovery. Because technically with a broken bone like that, you should have been out for 18 months. I know I was out for 3 months with my broken bone, but my foot was detached from my legs. So, when they put it back, 3 months was like the shortest period of time that I could get on my feet without pain. Uh, but a fracture is still a fracture, which is one of the reasons why I can tell you from experience that it the pain it's time to stop. It's time to stop. Gotta retire. Gotta start doing something different. Oh, how you doing, bro? Logic. Is gold really at $4,500 an ounce? Uh, cool. Hopefully it is. We have proven though that it's going to make it probably to about $6,000 an ounce by January of next year. So it's going to be a slow uptake. He said, "Yeah, they sent me home with instructions for surgery on what is that? The clavicle bone, titanium pins and screws." Oh man, I got off like a bandit then because I do not need titanium pins or screws. I just need to wrap it up now. Well, even now because the injury occurred back in 2020. It was a long time ago. I'm still dealing with it. So that's like what 20, 22 years ago, 23 years ago. It was a long time ago. And I still have to wrap it up with a brace in order to keep the pain from keep the swelling from preventing me from getting around. Well, yeah, I know. You said the clavicle bone is the bone that attaches the Achilles tendon. Yeah, I remember the injury that you got. I just had the actual foot break off. So I didn't mess that. I didn't mess up the clavicle bone. I only broke the bridge of the foot from the toes going back. I just broke that part off. So it was a front. You have a back. I got a front. It's a completely different injury. I just know that a foot injury I've had the experience of. It sucks. I can tell you that it's not fun at all, and I know that from experience. So I can only feel your pain. Uh, so the business model for realty income is going to be simple and strong. They own commercial properties under long term triple net leases. A triple net just means the tenant pays for the taxes, insurance, and the maintenance. So this projects realty or this protects realty income from rising costs and creates a super predictable stream of rent. And their tenants are reliable, so recession resistant. Businesses like Walgreens, Dollar General, and FedEx companies that do well in any economy is going to be here. Oh, okay, that's something I do too. But media itself mending itself back together at the hospital, I guess I'm a mutant. Well, you just strong-willed because you got to get out there and make that money. And person said it was a broken bone and there was a jagged edge on the X-ray. Ah, okay. So you have a positive vibe. I like listening to you. Well, I really appreciate you keep coming back. I do the best I can. 2 to 3 hour later, they tell me the CT scan and they said that it was just a fracture. Yeah, but the fracture is the worst one because if you don't let it heal right, that fracture is always going to be rubbing. You can always re-injure the injury overdoing it. If I don't feel pain, I take about two a leave. Oh no, two Advil every 10 or 15 hours. Whew. Yeah, I used to be taking gabapentin, bro. Pain threshold is a whole lot different. I was taking 3,600 milligrams of gabapentin. That was tough. That was tough. I know some pain there. Uh, so the role in the calendar for realty income has an incredible history of paying dividends monthly. So based on their super consistent schedule, we can project their first dividend date of the year for the January payment. And this is going to fall right around the December 2025, December 31st, 2025 date, right? So owning the stock before that date gets you the cash that you need. Now, the number one thing that you need to pay attention to for this, it is not just about the monthly checks, it's about the reliability. So, Realty Income is a dividend aristocrat, meaning that it's an S&P 500 company that has increased its dividends for at least 25 straight years. Ah, being positive is like a ripple in the ocean. So you're reaching people. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I put a lot of effort into making sure that y'all got ways to make yourselves better. It's a growing podcast, and we eventually gonna get there. You, we're only running what 82,000 right now, so we have a couple thousand people between all of the uh different podcasts because we got the long form, we have the shorts, we have Twitch and Twitter. So we've got them in a lot of different places. And we're supposed to be trying to get our hands on TikTok once TikTok transitions over to America. So that's going to be another thing that we're going to be working on. And once we get there, that's when we're going to start seeing probably a larger active rate because this is an interactive brand amongst all platforms. And as we get bigger, and get more active men on the show, we'll be able to start talking more about how we can make ourselves more successful. And that's typically what I like to try to do is get you guys more information on being successful. I typically want to get you guys to automate your success because by automating your success, it will happen automatically. And that will prevent you from having to depend on your physical presence to make money. You can stay at home and rest and recover. You can go on vacation, you can be sipping Mai Tais on a yacht in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle and still be making money. That's the goal. And with the way this country is headed, with AI running everything, and the rest of us is putting a good amount of effort into um, restructuralizing our economy to where we're gonna probably end up in a situation where we're not going to have taxation. It's probably better to put a lot of effort into um, getting paid to stay at home because you don't have to stress going to work to pay Uncle Sam. They say you have a good night. Go to the moon. Yes, sir. You have a good night. I greatly appreciate you stopping by. Now, about realty income, they've actually made over 650 consecutive monthly payments and have increased the dividends over 100 since going public in 1994. So this company has built its identity around rewarding shareholders. Risks and considerations that you have to pay attention to because there's always a catch. For real estate investment trusts like Realty Income, their main risks are the tenants failing to pay the rent and rising interest rates. So just like when the government shut down and people wasn't able to pay their rents, real estate investment trusts would be negatively impacted by something like that. Higher rates make it more expensive to borrow money for new properties. And even though we look at that a massive portfolio of over 15,000 properties, you still have to recognize that realty income is well diverse. So the failure of one or two tenants isn't a catastrophe, but it will offset the trend and you will see a difference in shareholder pricing. But for anyone building a dividend calendar, realty income is the perfect entry. Now, the next one that we're going to be looking at is Main Street Capital, ticker MAIN. And you guys are going to love this one. Putting this one up there for you. So, our next monthly payer comes from a different corner of the financial world, but offers that same promise of consistency. How you doing, Dylan? We're starting on time. This is what the second day this week that we've been at the top of the hour. Good to see that you were able to stop in. The first stock we covered was Realty Income, and the second one we're covering is Main Street Capital. As far as dividends, for because we're covering the dividend rotation strategy for January and December. That way, you guys have a good understanding as to which ones you guys can invest in. And truth be told, you could buy and hold a lot of the monthlies and diversify your portfolio across a lot of the monthlies. And then if you decide that you want to do dividend rotation with, um, yeah, Main Street Capital, you wanted to do the dividend rotation strategy with like 10 or 20% of your portfolio, you have a certain quantity of capital that you just hold where you're getting guaranteed dividends from everything. And then you have the icing on a cake where you rotate out a little bit of the money across the top. So say you had like $60,000 worth of money and you wanted to put $50,000 spread it across like 15 high interest dividend paying stocks and then take the other $10,000 and move it across the uh the dividends, then you would be able to make you a decent quantity of money on top that would give you a little extra boost to your money. They said like Nasdaq and all the, yeah, exactly. That's what we cover. Nasdaq, S&P 500, yeah, we're covering all that. ETFs, yeah, we're covering all that. So let's talk about Main Street Capital. This business model uh, is a business development company or a BDC. So think of it as a bank for small and mid-sized private companies, the backbone of the economy. Main Street gives them loans and sometimes takes an equity stake, and in return, it earns interest income and investors a way to profit from the growth of private businesses. If I heard invest in the company that's building the battleships, Nancy uh, Pelosi, she's a crook, but she's a smart cook. Well, so was Martha Stewart, but Martha Stewart doesn't have stocks. Um, a lot of the times people believe that they should throw their money on the front lines of things, and truth be told, yeah, if you're investing in a construction company that is building the battleships, then instead of investing in the battleships themselves, you can get a lot more return back on the contractor. So yeah, it is a good idea if you're investing in contractors that you invest in those contractors outside of October. You want to smart move is to sell government contract companies in September before the shutdown and then buy back in after the shutdown has passed. So, but yes, if you're going to be buying, because you could buy into things like cybersecurity. You can buy into a lot of things that could turn you some revenue. You can buy into prison systems. You can buy into the military stock options. There's a lot of stuff that you can invest into, and it will turn you a profit on the growth of those stock options, specifically because they're overly used. You see it at work. Everybody's house, or not everybody's house, but most people's houses have security cameras, whether it's a security company or if they've got some surveillance cameras that are operating off of their phone through an app. So that is cybersecurity. That is along with that, you have VPN software, you have um, virus scanner software, you have all of the other things that are keeping your computer functioning. You have Vault, Brinks, other such apps that work on your cell phone. There's so many things that are out there as far as cybersecurity. So yeah, you can invest in a lot of different things, but a lot of the things that you invest in are going to be growth stocks. Today, I'm talking about cash dividend stocks. And the reason why I'm talking about cash dividend stocks is because growth stocks, you're either going to leverage the portfolio for cash loans to do things with, which you would have to pay for them either out of your pocket or out of the dividends from your portfolio, or you would sell the stock in order to get the capital gain. That's like the only two ways that you can benefit from a growth stock. But with a dividend stock, all you have to do is wait for the money to come in and then you can spend the dividend instead of going through the extra effort of leveraging the portfolio or selling it off for a loss. Oh, you said what's the app again? It is the Robinhood is a good one. Robinhood is a good one, but there is another one that I find to be more effective because it's only like $3 a month and it's unlimited trading. You don't have to deal with trading fees, commission fees, and stuff to that effect. I should put a link to it in the membership, but it's a good one. It's a good way to go to move money around a lot faster. You can follow your stocks directly off of your phone and diversify your portfolio even larger. So even though you have a direct contract with one of your stock options, you could actually pick up a bunch more utilizing ETF trading and stuff to that effect towards the exact same stock options and gain more diversity because you could uh, change things around on your cell phone like in a second. I typically can probably spend 5 minutes out of the day getting on my phone, looking at which ones I'm going to sell, looking at which ones are going to buy, make that happen, set it up, and it's done. They typically have four trade windows throughout the trading day, uh, two of them before lunch, two of them after lunch, and you can get your money within 24 hours. So if you sell today, you get your money tomorrow, and then you can start working towards depositing it into your bank account, or reinvesting it back in for another trade. So you're looking for like a 72-hour window between the sell date and the buy date. Because if you sell first thing in the morning, the money could clear first thing the next morning, and you could still be prepared to buy in before the end of business day and be on the books for another stock option to catch the ex dividend date for the third day. Now, Main Street is another champion of monthly dividends, and they are known for declaring their dividends well in advance. Because of this, we can pencil in a key date with high confidence. So the ex dividend date for Main Street January dividends is projected to be about January 8th, 2026. And what's especially cool about Maine is that on top of its monthly dividends, it often pays out a larger supplemental dividend twice a year. So you get told when that supplementary dividend happens. Main Street's track record is impressive. because since its IPO on 2007, uh, it has never once cut its regular monthly dividend and has a history of steadily increasing it over time. The combination of a solid monthly check and those potential bonus payments makes it a powerful income tool. Now, as a BDC, Main Street's health is tied to the health of the small businesses it lends to. So a recession could cause some of these businesses to default on their loans. And it also is sensitive to interest rates. However, it has a management team that has navigated multiple economic cycles successfully, and their strategy of using both debt and equity gives them multiple ways to win. Now that we've had our monthly income baseline, let's look at the quarterly giants because they pay less often, but the payments can be big and you don't want to miss their deadlines. Two Harbors Investment Corp. I'll put this in there for you. In our first quarter, uh, for January, a high yield opportunity, but it's very different beast from realty income is a mortgage REIT, not just a REIT. Two Harbors owning buildings uh, would be something that they wouldn't do. So let's put it to you like this: since realty income would invest in the buildings, uh, Two Harbors would invest in the mortgage of the business, and mortgages backed by securities for the business. So they make their money on the spread, the difference between the interest that they earn on their assets and their cost to borrow the money is one of the biggest ways that they make themselves successful. Now, this one is going to be time sensitive because MREITs often follow predictable schedules. We could project the ex dividend date for Two Harbors' first dividend of the year to be Monday, January 5th of 2026. Now, that means you must own the stock before the market opens that day to capture the payment, which would then be paid out later in the month. So MREITs like Two Harbor are famous for offering very high dividend yields, often way higher than traditional stocks. And this is because as REITs, they have to distribute most of their income to the shareholders. So for investors looking for big income boost, that yield is very tempting. High yields always comes with higher risks, but the MREIT business is extremely sensitive to those interest changes. And if rates raises quickly, their profit margins can get squeezed. But we just heard over this past week, I just verified it on Monday, that interest rates got cut. So they're going to benefit a lot from this. The, Two Harbors also faces prepayment risks because if people refinance their mortgages at lower rates, those high yield assets disappear. The high yield is your compensation for taking on these risks, making this a stock to handle with care. Now, here's one that we typically don't follow very often. It's a Kimberly Clark corporation, and but this one is from the wild world of real estate investment trust. We would end up pivoting to one of the most stable sectors with their consumer staples, So the business model for Kimberly Clark, I don't know if you know the name, but you definitely know the brand. Huggies, Kleenex, Scott, Cottonelle. Michael used to tell us all the time to run out and go and grab some adult diaper stock. Well, now you've got toilet paper and everything to that effect right here. These are the things that people buy every single day, no matter what the economy is doing. And sometimes they buy a little bit more during natural disasters. You don't stop buying toilet paper in the recession. And that is the core of this company's strength. So its role on the calendar is going to be a classic quarterly payer and a dividend king, an elite title for companies that have increased their dividends for 50 plus consecutive years. Its schedule is very predictable. So, to get the first payment of the year, which typically arrives in early January, you need to own this stock before its ex dividend date of the prior year in December. For 2026, that ex dividend date was projected to be around December 5th. So we kind of missed this one. But for the payment, where that first payment happens January 5th. But this is one of the ones that I wanted to start talking to you guys about because this one is supposed to be a upcoming quarterly by the ex dividend date being in December. The next time this one would run up on a quarterly would be February. For March. But this shows how important it is to plan ahead. The next time to act will be before its second quarter dividend, which will likely have an ex dividend date uh, either late February or early March because of that 28-day schedule. Kimberly Clark has raised its dividends for 53 straight years, and that kind of track record shows incredible financial stability and a serious commitment to its shareholders. Every staple company has its challenges because Kimberly Clark faces tough competition from brands like uh, Procter and Gamble and cheaper store brands. They're also exposed to the cost of raw materials like pulp, but their brand power and resilience are hard to bet against. A lot of us bet against it all the time, specifically because we didn't even know it was out there. So if you find the dividend calendar helpful, do me a quick favor, hit that like button. Really helps the channel get its legs up under it. And if you want to stay ahead of more dividend dates all year round, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications so that you don't miss a thing about what we're going into with investments. And if you join the membership, you'll see throughout the month that I'll be posting certain dividend rotation information up there, which aids you guys in your ability to be successful. But we've got more to cover, so let's get back to it. Now we've mapped out January. Okay. Now let's roll forward to February. Now this month is packed with opportunities, bringing back our monthly payers and adding some of the most iconic quarterly dividend stocks in the world. So this is where our income stream really starts to pick up steam. Because one of the things that hold on, he said, uh, one of the things we did not touch base on real quick is we have every month. It goes without saying, and I'm about to walk in February and I have to start talking about it. We have AGNC, Orchid Island, and Prospect Capital that rotate out every month. AGNC is around between the 27th and 30th of the month. Uh, Prospect Capital is also between the 27th and 30th of the month, and Orchid Island is between the 27th and 30th of the month. They're so close together. Sometimes AGNC is closer to the 31st, Orchid Island is closer to the 31st, and Prospect Capital usually hits first. But there's like a 24-hour window sometimes between these three stocks that prevents you from being able to rotate in and out of each one of them. You either have to grab one or grab all three because after you buy in, by the time you sell, the other two will be outside of your reach. Um, and then we have AG Mortgage, which is another one that happens around the same time. And typically, AG Mortgage pays out a little bit more. So you would have to go and grab AG Mortgage instead of the other three, unless you were going to be grabbing all four of them on that quarterly payout time in order to make sure that your money's getting what it's supposed to get during that timeline. Because just like I said before, your monthlies, if you're doing a buy and hold on your monthlies and then doing a dividend rotation on your quarterlies, you're likely to see more return. You're going to see a higher taxation, but you're likely going to see more of a return. But the best thing about the monthly dividend stocks is their relentless consistency. So just as well as other stocks, when we're entering into the second month, they're already lined up to pay us again. So we would see Realty Income, ticker O, or Main Street Capital, ticker MAIN, happen regularly. And while we'll have Realty Income's second ex dividend date of the year based on clockwork like schedules, this will likely happen just around the end of January for February payment, and the machine just keeps running. Main Street Capital also continues on its monthly payout based on a history of declaring dividends in advance, and we can project its February dividend for around February 6th. But we're going to add some other monthly payers to the mix. And this time an ETF that offers stability. I share US Treasury Bond ETF, ticker GOBT. Now, we used this one last month. Uh, the business model for GOVT isn't a single company, it's an ETF that holds a basket of US Treasury bonds. So when you buy a share of GOVT, you're lending money to the United States government, considering one of the safest investments on the planet, until they do something ridiculous. And the income that you get is the interest paid on those bonds. Its role in the calendar is the GOVT ETF pays dividends monthly, and its ex dividend dates are incredibly predictable, typically falling on the first business day of the month. That means we can project the February ex dividend date to be around Monday, February 3rd of 2026. This adds another layer of income that isn't tied to a stock market, which is great for diversification. The yield on GOBT will move with interest rates. So since the interest rates just went down, we're going to see some change. It won't give you explosive growth, but it offers something just as valuable, which is reliability. The benefits of volatility is that it takes a massive dip. And when it takes a massive dip, if you buy in after the dip, not before, when it does its return climb, you get the difference between the two. Now, the income is going to be backed by the full faith of credit of the United States government, not based on Fort Knox. But the main Risk here is going to just be the interest rates. So if the Federal Reserve raises rates again, the prices of older bonds will fall, which will cause GOVT share prices to drop. However, that income uh, is going to pay out, and that's going to also be adjusted to the new higher rates over time. Now, February's quarterly payouts are going to be dividend royalties because February is a huge month for legendary dividend growth stocks. The first quarterly ex dividend date tends to cluster right in the middle of the month, such as the famous Johnson and Johnson, ticker J&J. And this is a titan that we're going to be starting with of healthcare and other members of the elite dividend king club. So Johnson& Johnson is a global healthcare giant with two main parts: med tech, so think surgical tools and vision care, and innovation medicine, think developing new drugs for major diseases. Johnson& Johnson products are essential to healthcare everywhere, which create incredible durability and demand. Think the baby oil or the lotion. Now, Johnson& Johnson is a classic quarterly payer, and its first ex-dividend date of the year is a cornerstone of any February calendar. Based on decades of historical patterns, we can confidently forecast the ex-dividend date to be around Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. Now, this is one of the most reliable projections you can make, but you can verify it closer to the declaration date. Johnson& Johnson's track record is just incredible because it has its dividends for over 60 years increasing. So just always going up every year for the last 60 years. And this kind of history signals immense financial strength and a rock solid commitment to returning capital to its shareholders. Now, one of the other benefits of Johnson& Johnson is because Johnson& Johnson is a very expensive stock. And I think you can see it going across the bottom of the show here. Johnson& Johnson is like a growth stock as well as a dividend stock. So if you were one of those individuals that wanted to leverage your portfolio to gain capital to go make a purchase and then use your dividends to pay on the line of credit, Johnson and Johnson would have the stable growth and then still give you the dividend payouts along with some of your other payouts, so that you would be able to make the payments on that capital. I think it's worth it. Johnson and Johnson's biggest risk comes from the drug business. And we're not talking about like the cartel. We're not talking about ATS running through your house. We're talking about things like patent expirations and the threat of litigation, which is common in healthcare. However, the company's massive size and diversified business provide a strong buffer against these risks. The Protector and Gamble Company, ticker PG, is going to be another one that, remember, I told you guys, went up against Charmin and some of the other ones. So not very often, because it was Kimberly Clark Corporation. This is the competitor to Kimberly Clark Corporation. Not very often do we put two competitors up there, but here we go. This is going to be another quarterly giant, and this one is a direct competitor to that Kimberly Clark and an absolute icon of consumer staples, which means that if you were getting consumer staples and diversifying your portfolio, you would get both Kimberly Clark and Protector and Gamble so that whenever one outdoes the other, you benefit from both. Now, since Protector and Gamble is a company behind brands, you absolutely have to have in your house right now. Think about what's in your house right now, and then think Tide, Crest, Gillette, Pampers, and Bounty. And didn't Michael say buy adult diapers? There it goes right there. Protector and Gamble. Like KMD, P&G's business is built on selling essential products to billions of people, and their brands are so powerful they create a moat that protects the business from competition. P&G has a very predictable dividend schedule, and for the first payment of the year, which lands in your account in mid February, the ex dividend date is usually in late January. So for our 2026 calendar, we can project that the ex dividend date to be around Friday, January 23rd, 2026, with the payment hitting your account around February 17th. So the action date is in January, but the cash flow is the key part of our February plan. P&G is another dividend king, having increased its dividends for over 65 consecutive years, one of the longest streaks out there. Their ability to generate cash through any economy is legendary. P&G faces similar risks as Kimberly Clark, tough competition, and the need to keep up with consumer trends. As a huge global company, they're also exposed to foreign currency swings, but their enormous scale and brand loyalty are powerful advantages. Now, the next one that I want to talk about real quick is one that we really look away from on our day to day trips to McDonald's, ExxonMobil. We're going to switch things up for you for a little bit, and we're going to go from buying things from the store and the supermarket and stuff to storing energy that powers the world with one of the biggest dividend payers on the planet. There's a lot of them. We got a lot of the highest paying dividends, lowest costing buy-ins, but ExxonMobil is an integrated energy super major. They do everything: find and pump oil and gas upstream, transport and refine it into gasoline downstream, and manufacture chemicals. This integration is a natural hedge. When oil prices are high, the upstream business booms. When oil prices are low, the downstream business often benefits from cheaper costs. Now, nothing is perfect. Exxon is a rock solid quarterly payer. Its ex dividend dates are highly predictable, typically falling in mid February, May, August, and November. So for our 2026 calendar, we can forecast the ex dividend date with high confidence to be around Wednesday, February 11th or Thursday, February 12th of 2026. We can get confirmation on that from the declaration date that's going to happen earlier, uh, either late January or early February. Typically, you see outside of during government shutdowns, 2 to 3 weeks before the ex dividend date, you get a declaration date. But this kind of helps you plan which stocks you want to check 2 to 3 weeks before the ex dividend date to verify their ex dividend dates. ExxonMobil, being a dividend aristocrat, has raised its dividends for over 40 years straight. And that's especially impressive for a company that is cycling energy sectors. They are a cash flow machine and have focused on returning that cash to shareholders through both a growing dividend and share buybacks method. So they still have their risks. Nothing is without risk. The most obvious risk here is the volatility of oil and gas prices. The company also faces long term pressure from the global shift to lower carbon energy. Exxon is investing in solutions like carbon capture, but the profitability of that transition is still a major long term question. Broadcam is another one that we have. And Broadcam is one we haven't talked about in a few months. Because again, when we start talking about our normal monthlies that are going to be falling here, we will still have again our AGNC, Orchid Island, and Prospect Capital are the three that would happen every month. But we would look at Broadcam as one that comes up on a quarterly basis. And this one is a company that represents growth instead of dividends. So Broadcam is a global leader that designs the semiconductor chips and software that power our world. So their chips are in everything from iPhones to data centers, and their software helps large companies manage their complex IT systems. Broadcam pays quarterly, and their dividends are easy to get our hands on. It has an ex dividend date that's a clear pattern: late March, June, September, and December. The last ex dividend date of December 2025 was projected for around December 2020, 22nd. Following that schedule, the next ex dividend date to watch for is the first one of 2026, would be in late March of 2026. So while there is no action to take in February, you understand that roughly close to March 22nd of 2026, we might see another dividend. But a smart investor is already looking ahead and planning for this one because Broadcam isn't an aristocrat like the others, but it is a dividend growth monster. They have a history of increasing their dividends by double digit percentages for over a decade. This combination of a decent yield and explosive growth makes it a favorite for many dividend growth investors because you can buy into this one as you're waiting on the ex dividend date. You can um, sell the offset of the growth, buy back in on the dip, still be able to get the dividends, and potentially have more dividends if you buy back in before the ex dividend date when you experience a dip about a week or so before the ex dividend date. Now, the semiconductor industry is known for being uh, ci- uh, cycling catastrophic failures because you're going to end up with booms that are often followed by busts. It's catastrophic cycling, which increases its volatility. But it also has a huge part of the business that is tied to major customers like Apple. So a slowdown at Apple can hurt Broadcam. Finally, they're still integrating the massive acquisition of VMware, which carries risks. However, their dominant market position and fantastic track record are powerful counter arguments. So, it is likely that you can get in there and still acquire a pretty decent growth on the stock in addition to the dividends that you're looking for. So, there you have it, a detailed, actionable dividend calendar to kick off 2026. We built an income plan just for January and February. And we're going to start with the foundation of monthly payers like Realty Income, Main Capital, Orchid Island, AGNC, Prospect Capital, and these are going to give you your consistent cash flow. We then identify the critical time sensitive ex dividend dates for the quarterly heavyweights. In January, we're watching for projected dates for the high yield mortgage real estate investment trusts like Two Harbors around January 5th, and the business development companies like Main Street Capital around January 8th. And notice how those are 3 days off. If the 5th and the 8th are both weekdays, you can sell on the 5th, clear the money by the 6th, buy into the 8th on the 7th. If the 5th is on a weekend, you can sell on the 6th, clear it on the 7th, but you have to have it bought on the 7th for the ex dividend date on the 8th. See how tough that is? That 3 day turnaround sometimes doesn't work out for you. In February, the action picks up. Our monthly payers deliver again and will turn to the giants. We're forecasting the ex dividend dates for energy kings like ExxonMobil around February 12th and healthcare titans like Johnson& Johnson around February 17th. And having a 5 day gap between the two, you're more likely to hit both of them even if there's a weekend involved. We also know that to get paid in February by a staple like Procter and Gamble, we need to act on it from the projected date of late January's ex dividend date. So, what you've seen so far throughout the show, I've been putting on the screen a summary of all the companies that we've discussed. And you're going to see a lot of those in our membership with their tickers and their projected ex dividend dates for January and February 2026. And this is going to be your roadmap for you to do your research. But here's the most important part, the action step. You have to use these dates as a starting point. You want to take the companies that interest you, do your own deep dive research before these deadlines arrive. You want to read their earnings reports, look at their balance sheets, and decide if they fit your goals or their risk tolerance. And this calendar is what and when, but the why has to come from your own convictions. By planning ahead, you make sure you never miss a payment and can strategically capture the income that you want right from the start. So, this is something that you need to probably look into. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments which of these dividends you're targeting for 2026. Are you focused on the monthly payers for cash flow or the quarterly growth drives? Matter of fact, do you have some that you're following that you put more effort into than the ones that I've been talking about today because you might not have known about the ones that I've talked about today? I read every single comment and would love to start a conversation with you guys about it. And while you're down there in the comment section, if you're serious about taking your dividend income to the next level, you got to check out some of our other videos that are coming up, such as building a six-figure dividend portfolio from scratch. It's the perfect next step. And it'll be a follow-up from our core satellite show and our we had an all growth portfolio we've created. We've had a all cash dividend stock portfolio we created, and we also had a blend of the two, a hybrid. And then we had the one with the core satellite that gave you a baseline of both growth and dividends and still had extras that we could rotate through for the dividend rotation strategy to give you growth, dividends, and extra dividends across the top, hitting all the quarterlies. So we're going to be giving you more information about building a six-figure dividend portfolio from scratch coming soon. Uh, that's all I have for you guys for tonight. I really appreciate you guys watching the show. And you have a prosperous income filled 2026 based on taking action on a lot of the dividends that I've got for you tonight. And we're going to be doing this at least once a month, giving you guys the upcoming 2 months, in addition to the week to week reminders of the upcoming ex dividend dates that we're following so that you guys can invest, if you like, into some of the ones that will potentially turn you some profits. Uh, Beyond that, next week, Tuesday, we're going to be talking about different ways to pick up properties in real estate. So that's going to be a pretty heavy topic to get into. And tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to be talking about Norway, which is a different country to invest in. So we got a lot of stuff prepared for you guys, and I look forward to showing up on time and covering the spread for you. So before I go, I want to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And then, fellas, I give you guys this information to help y'all become higher value men. So if you take this information and utilize it, you can change the things in your life that you would prefer to be improved, and then navigate around the things that are not within your control. Because again, ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can utilize this and make yourselves higher value women as well. Specifically, just like I told the men, taking this information and focusing on the things that you can control to make change, and then navigating around the things that you can't. This will make you better. And then if you find somebody in life that has similar drives as you do, y'all don't have to have everything in common. Y'all just have to have the same outcome as a desire, and y'all can navigate how y'all are going to get there through compromise. Because, like I've told you guys before, you can put a decent quantity of money from each of you away in savings. If you're living beneath your standard of living, then you can put up to $40,000 a year aside. And if y'all stuck together for 20 years, y'all be $1.5 million or more. You within 10 years, you'd be well over 600,000 a year. And the fact is that in that time frame, if you're getting 15 to 20% interest off of 600,000 a year, you're making close to 200,000 a year. And between the two of y'all both could quit and have the same lifestyle or a better lifestyle with more free time to spend time with each other. And all y'all, and that's within the first 10 years. If you're trying to grind it out and double down, you have more money to reinvest in, but that gives you the ability to see the results of your efforts sooner. And it should motivate you guys to not make as many financial mistakes. But you should be able to continue to improve your growth stocks so that when you reach that point, everybody gets what they're supposed to have. Now, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.